This year we lost two of the really icons in the history. I call them the yin and yang, the white hat, the black hat of the Luv Ya Blue Oiler lore. I'm talking about, of course, Bud and Bum. For those who weren't here for that, explain what it was like to be living in Houston, because that's exactly about the time you got here when the Luv Ya Blue era started.
Yeah, I got here in '77, and Bum was the coach, and it was just a magical, mystical trip. It was just so much fun, and Bum had a way about him of just cutting to the chase. He had a lot of guys that loved playing for him, and they were characters. Karl Mock's comment with Gifford Nielsen his first day coming to the Oilers from Brigham Young, Gifford gets in the huddle and practice, and Mock says, "Gifford, is that chocolate milk that I smell on your breath?" And Gifford said, "Why, yes, it is chocolate milk." And you talk about opposites attracting. I mean, they were just a great big mix of different personalities and different people, and Bum made it all work. They loved playing for Bum, and he just made covering football fun here. Of course, when they get Earl Campbell, make that work with Pastorini and Kenny Burrow, I think the Steelers were the only thing getting in the way of the Oilers winning the Super Bowl, because I think the Oilers were better than the Cowboys in those couple of years in '79 and '80 when the Steelers won the AFC. And I think had the Oilers been able to, had they not had the Steelers as the big boulder, then the Oilers would have beaten the NFC team to win the Super Bowl. I truly believe that.
Oh, yeah, I agree. They ran into one of the greats of all time, great teams.
Well, speaking of the Oilers, Kenny, you wrote a book about the '89 Oilers, the year of pain, and covered the team in the Warren Moon era.
Yeah.
What did you think of that? Did you by chance see that documentary on the NFL Network of the '93 Oilers? And how would you sum up the Moon era, the Warren Moon era, under both Jerry Glanville and Jack Pardee?
Yeah, they were. I mean, obviously, Jerry was. I don't know why I got along with him or he got along. I mean, I just. You know how personalities go, and you can't explain it, and nobody seemed to like Glanville here. Jerry was like the World Wrestling Federation. He was like theatrics and most of it just a he was trying to distract from all the stuff that might have been aimed at any criticism of his players, and it didn't work. I mean, Jerry should have if you just sat down and had a beer with Glanville, I mean, he was a pretty calm guy and a really decent guy. But we just never get to see that side of him here. Most people, because he was always leaving tickets for Elvis and doing crazy stuff. But he was a good coach, and he outcoached a lot of NFL coaches when he was on the Oilers sideline. But the problem with Warren Moon was that they had a real good offense and they threw the ball around a lot. But as we know, numbers don't mean everything. You don't win playoff games with garish offensive numbers. You still win playoff games the old-fashioned way with defense and running the ball and controlling the clock and completing key passes and crunch time stuff. And a lot of times Moon would just throw, 42 for 56 for 420 yards and then just throw some horrible interception late. And Warren was a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, a really good quarterback. But they just never did have they were a little soft on offense. They had all these great wide receivers, and I mean, I loved Haywood Jeffries and Curtis Duncan, and Lorenzo White was a good back, but they never had an Earl Campbell type back. They never had just Rozier was a good back, but they never had a guy that, what I'm saying, that never had an Eric Dickerson or somebody to just absolutely take over and pound it out of that kind of run and shoot offense. And then in '93, I mean, Jack Pardee comes in, great guy, just a wonderful guy, low key. But they should have never, ever lost that playoff game to Buffalo. I mean, they got a 35-3 lead early third quarter after Bud McDowell returns that interception for a touchdown, and Bud Adams flew home. He thought the game was over, and he takes his private jet back to Houston, and he lands, and at the airport in here, I guess it was Hobby, where Bud lands, and he hits the ground, and somebody says, "Gosh, Mr. Adams, I sure am sorry about the way the game ended." And when Bud left, Buffalo was 35-3. And Bud said, "What do you mean?" And they said, "Well, I mean, the Oilers losing." He goes, "Losing?" I mean, Bud was in disbelief when he landed. I don't know why he left early. If you're the owner, why would you leave early in Buffalo?
Especially knowing the Oilers history.
Maybe at an early dinner at Tony's back here on, I don't know, for Carrabba's. I don't know, maybe they had reservations.
One thing you learn about being a Houston fan is when you got a huge lead, the only thing that can happen is bad. So you just kind of turn off the TV and I guess Bud just goes, "Well, I can just leave the entire city."
If you go back, and this is aired on ESPN, from start to finish, you have to catch it at the right time. They don't broadcast a lot of times when it's going to be on, but sometimes late at night, you'll be lucky enough you might catch the replay of that game. And if you haven't ever seen it from start to finish and you're an Oiler fan or Houston fan, you should one time, then you probably don't want to see it again. But it's like, after like the second touchdown pass from Frank Reich to Andre Reed, it's like, will you guys run the football? Will you hand off to Lorenzo White? Will you eat some clock? All they kept doing is first down, throw it, interception. It's like, this cannot happen. And you guys have seen this before in sports. It doesn't matter whether it's boxing or baseball, little league or major league, where all of a sudden the pitcher can't throw a strike, and then somebody else comes in and he can't throw a strike, and everybody walks in a run, and all of a sudden the boxer that's controlled the fight for 6 rounds now he's just getting pummeled, and he can't figure out how to come back. And it was just one of those weird things. I've never seen anything like it, where it just starts happening and there's nothing you can do to turn it back around.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.